All right, let's get right into it. We are going to talk about one of the most painful, most confusing things that can happen in life. Why that spark in a long term relationship just seems to die out. Today, we're going to explore a really interesting way of looking at this that might just change how you see everything. So, you know the feeling. So many of us have been there. You have this relationship that was once just so full of life and energy, and then slowly but surely, it just fades. Such a common story, but that doesn't make it any less confusing or painful when it happens to you.
Ah, this phrase right here. It's the classic ending, isn't it? It's usually said with this kind of shrug, this sense of defeat, as if love is some kind of magical force that we have zero control over and it can just disappear for no reason at all. But what if it's not magic? What if there's a reason? A really logical one?
Okay, so here's the big idea we're unpacking today. What if that feeling we call love isn't some delicate flame you have to constantly shield from the wind? What if it's actually more like a dashboard light in your car? A biological feedback signal that's telling you something incredibly important about the health of your partnership. And that brings us to this core concept. I want you to forget about romance, just for a second, and start thinking about systems. The idea here is that a relationship isn't a poem you have to keep alive, it's an economy that you have to manage. And trust me, that one little shift in perspective, it changes everything. So, in this relationship economy, the single most important asset is something called the commons. Now, what is that? Think of it like the shared infrastructure of your life together. It's not just the house or the car. It is the entire ecosystem that makes the relationship work, or not work, for both of you. And this breaks it down beautifully into four key areas. First, you've got the physical commons. Who's cleaning the house, who's making sure the bills are paid. Then there's the emotional. Are you guys actually resolving fights, or are you just shoving them under the rug to fester? Third, the temporal. Are you making real quality time for each other, or just coexisting? And finally, and this one is so important, the developmental. Is there space for each of you to grow and be yourselves, or are you losing your identity in the us? When all four of these are healthy, the relationship just works.
So, if your relationship is this economy built on a shared commons, then every single thing you do is either an investment or a withdrawal. And this leads to two totally different ways of behaving. You're either investing in the commons, making it stronger, or you're quietly strip mining it for your own benefit.
Now, let's be super clear about this. Everybody has legitimate needs, right? You need sleep, you need downtime, you need support. That's all part of being human. But extraction, that's different. Extraction is when you take more than you need and you do it in a way that drains the system and forces your partner to constantly pick up your slack. Let's make this totally real, because this example is just perfect. When one person decides, oh, I'm just messy, or I'm just not good at planning things, or I always forget birthdays. Well, guess what? That work doesn't just vanish into thin air. Nope. It gets downloaded right onto their partner, and that extra labor becomes invisible. It just becomes expected. That right there is a classic act of extraction. And here's what's so tricky, so insidious about it. The person doing the extracting, a lot of the time, they have no clue they're even doing it. From their point of view, they're just being themselves, living their life. They don't see that their personal convenience is coming at a huge direct cost to their partner and to the long-term health of the entire relationship. So you might be thinking, okay, but it's just a small thing. Well, here's how these small things become huge problems. These little acts of extraction, they aren't just one-off events. They create a pattern. There's this ratchet effect where these little imbalances get locked in and then they compound over and over until they have massive consequences down the road. This lays out that downward spiral perfectly. Look, it starts small. One person takes a little more than they give, so the other person compensates. They pick up the slack. But while they're doing that, they're also building up this quiet, unspoken resentment. And over time, this imbalance just becomes normal. It's just the way things are. And nobody says anything until one day you both look around and realize the entire foundation, the commons, is completely falling apart. And that is the absolute tragedy of it all. The problem doesn't get fixed when it's a tiny little leak. It gets ignored for years, maybe even decades. So by the time the spark is obviously gone, you're not dealing with a small issue anymore. Oh no. You are dealing with a massive, crushing debt of resentment, depletion, and completely broken trust.
Okay, so this brings us full circle right back to our original mystery. What does it actually mean when you fall out of love? Well, with this economic framework, the answer becomes crystal clear.
This right here is the whole point. Love isn't the input you have to keep feeding into the machine. It's the output. It is the feeling that naturally shows up when a system is functional, when it's mutual, when it's respectful. It's basically your body's reward signal, telling you, hey, you are in a partnership that is genuinely working for both of you. So when that feeling starts to fade, your body is giving you some brutally honest feedback. It might be saying, you know what, I know I haven't been a fair partner, and my body is registering that guilt. Or it could be saying, I am being drained day after day, and my emotional system is shutting down to protect me from more damage. Or in the saddest cases, it's a signal that both of you have been strip-lining the relationship for so long that there's simply nothing left to take. And that is the ultimate takeaway. That painful, gut-wrenching sentence, I don't love you anymore, it's not a moral failure. It's not some mystery illness that came out of nowhere. It is an accurate symptom of a deep systemic problem. The feeling isn't the issue. The feeling is the distress signal, and it's pointing to the real issue. The economics of the relationship are broken. And so we're going to end with this, a question to really think about. As you look at your own relationships, past or present, this whole idea forces you to ask a really tough question. Are your actions an investment? Are you building up that shared foundation? Or are you, maybe without even realizing it, quietly mining it? Because your body and your partner's body is absolutely keeping score.